modesty is learning how to not only respect the person within themselves or respect themselves as an individual, but to respect the person that they're with. Sometimes there should not be roadblocks, constant roadblocks of other people liking another person. And, it becomes this victimized type approach like, well, people should just not look at me or, shouldn't think of it that way. But at the end of the day, it's just like you actually realize that maybe this person's really doing it for attention. Welcome to the Free and Redeem podcast. I am your host, Simon Andrade, and here on this specific show, we tackle over key topics that every single Christian struggles with. We bring in guests, we bring in godly wisdom, and more importantly, we bring in scriptures in the Bible to help you enhance your walk with God, bring in confidence, and put you into the direction of freedom and grace by the power of the Holy Spirit. If you're new to this platform, I encourage you to subscribe. With all that being said, guys, let's get started with today's episode. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of the Free and Redeem podcast. If you're new to this channel, you know what to do. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit subscribe, share with your friends and family. We are posting very consistently now, and I'm very excited about the series we have been following very recently. If you've been following the last two episodes I've been doing, you probably saw the episode 10 Types of Women You Should Avoid Dating If You Are a Christian Man. And very recently I posted the episode 10 Types of Men You Should Avoid Dating If You're a Single Christian Woman. There was a lot of thought, prayer, and a lot of stuff that I put into that episode. So definitely appreciate the feedback. Come check it out. Link will be in the description, or I'll even post the videos right here. But today's episode, I really want to kind of emphasize a little bit more on, what we've been discussing, what we really need to look out for in the dating world. And, especially if we're single. And this is something I've really even thought about, as a single man myself. And it really kind of comes down to the question I'm sure a lot of people ask themselves is like, is it, even worth dating anymore? Is it, are there any, as a single man, I'm sure a lot of other single men may ask, is it possible to find a quality woman? Is it, and vice versa with a woman, is it possible to find a quality man or the man I'm really hoping for and everything or praying for? And in today's episode, I want to talk about the possibilities that there are when it comes to dating somebody who probably is the right person to date. And maybe if not, the right person to marry. What I've really thought about is, what are these green flags? Because sometimes, and I've even stressed this in the recent episode I did on 10 types of men to avoid, is it even enough for somebody to come out and say, hey, just date a Christian person? And in this case, we're talking about Christian dating. And in this episode, I want to talk about green flags to really look out for, but I'm not just talking about green flags like, oh, they go to church, oh, they listen to worship music, or they listen to Maverick City music, oh yeah, they read their Bible, they know all the chapters of the Bible. No, like, I really want to go deeper than that. So in today's episode, we're going to talk about 5 green flags to look out for in a woman if you're a single Christian man. And what are these 5 green flags? Well, to start off, I think the biggest one to really kind of get this going is, number 1 is, I like to call it, she's intentional. In Proverbs chapter 31 verse 11, it says her husband has full confidence in her and lacks nothing of value. The number one frustration a lot of men face today in dating is not so much getting a girl to be interested in them. Sometimes I believe that's what they think is the problem, but I think the number one problem men face in dating is just getting a girl to be intentional about them. It's not enough for a girl to think you're attractive. It really isn't. And I think a lot of times today we hear all these videos, oh, how do I know if a girl's into me? Or how do I know if she's wanting all this stuff? Like, oh, she'll flip her hair back, she'll wink at you, she'll slightly touch your arm. If she does, and then some of the ridiculous things I've seen, if she grabs her drink in a certain way, sips it in a certain way, and then looks at you, oh, she definitely wants you to approach and ask her out, or she definitely wants you. This is not what dating should really be about. Dating should really be, what is What is the story actually telling you when actual verbal and nonverbal communication is happening? And you know what? How do you really know a woman is into you? She's gonna be intentional. What does it mean to be intentional about something or about someone? Well, here's the thing. When you're intentional about something, you naturally just do the actions that are necessary. Here's the thing. It's no different for me to say, hey, if I'm intentionally trying to pursue a job, what? I'm going to apply. I'm going to show up to the interview. I'm going to give it my best impression. I'm going to build a connection with the boss or the recruiter. I'm going to actually show up and do the job, the standards that were given to me about this specific job position. You see what I mean? That's a simple analogy, but it's the same thing with dating. If a woman is intentional about you, first of all, she will say yes to the date. If she says no, don't sit back and say, hey, well, maybe I just need to give her time. Like, no, if she says no, no means no. She will say yes to the date. She will text you back. She will show up to the date. She won't not show up and say, hey, sorry, I was busy, I got behind, or hey, I'm constantly rescheduling on you, never actually making the effort to meet up with you. All this stuff, like she will actually make the date, at least the first date, happen. That's how you know a woman is being intentional. And then if she is intentionally wanting to be serious with you, she will let it happen. She will continue to meet with you. She will continue to talk with you. And that's the first green flag you should really look out for if you're a single Christian man, is if you really want to pursue a woman, you have to ask yourself the question, is she going to be intentional? Is she being intentional with me now? Because if she's not being intentional, all I could really tell you is you're just really wasting your time at the end of the day. But if this girl is actually, and sometimes maybe this is a big sign to look out for, she's texting you first, texting you good morning first, or if she's actually making the effort to talk to you, and sometimes she'll even put aside some plans to meet with you or to even be with you, that just shows you she's wanting to be serious with you. And if that's something you could identify with her right from the get-go in the beginning, this is how you know maybe this is something that's worth pursuing in your life. And number two, which could be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to quick this, is I like to refer to it as she is modest. She is modest. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 30. Charm is deceptive and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. As I mentioned before, modesty is such a huge controversial subject today in society, but I think what makes it so controversial, or why it's always kind of getting debated, is because I feel like modesty today is really mostly being addressed towards women and not necessarily towards men. And of course, in the men episode I'll probably post, I'm going to talk about how this could apply to men as well. But modesty, why is it such a big thing to look out for, especially when it comes to the women that we date as single Christian men? Well, first of all, you have to understand one thing about modesty is, what is modesty? Modesty is a woman who knows how to respect herself in different areas of her life, and that does include the physical stuff. Why is modesty mostly directed towards women? Well, let me just say it like this. Men have a different way of being attracted to women. We all know this most of the time, and I'm sure there's multiple survey studies that could be done about this, but most of the time, 9 times out of 10, if you were to show a group of young adult men, supermodels, or very beautiful women who are in shape, they have a nice figure, they have their makeup done, all this stuff, probably 9 times out of 10, these young men, if you were to ask these young men, hey, would you date her? More than likely, they would say, yeah, oh my gosh, I would date her. She's beautiful. Wow. Man, how could I talk to her? Right away, without a second thought in their mind, men would probably snap their fingers and say, oh my gosh, it would be a no question brainer. But most of the time, we've noticed with women, it's a little bit different. With women, it's like we'll show pictures of men to women. And sometimes you'll notice with women, like, well, that's not really my type. My type is not a man with a mustache, or man with, who wears like polo shirts. Or, hey, I really don't date guys who are in shape. Or, hey, I prefer a guy who's taller. I prefer a guy who's shorter. There's different types of physical attributes women prefer. But at the end of the day, I think what women really look for in men is just like, hey, let me get to know him. Let me see who he is. Let me see how we connect. And then before you know it, maybe the guy that she's looked at and says, hey, I would date him. Who knows? Probably that's the guy she's really looking for at the end of the day. You see what I mean? It's a little bit different. Now, modesty, when I say a woman is modest, I'm not talking about a woman who has those old school Pentecostal dresses, doesn't wear makeup, doesn't do her hair, and she's like completely avoidant of like men lusting after her. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about a woman who knows how to respect herself and knows the potential impacts it could have on men and, causing another man to stumble. What do I mean by this? Well, first of all, if you have to ask yourself the question, if you have a girlfriend, guys, And you have other guys sliding into her DMs, or other guys trying to get at her, despite even though she has a boyfriend, and you kind of understand that she likes the attention and she'll continue to post about it anyway, rather if it's a TikTok dance or gym progress photos, whatever it may be. If you are noticing a consistent pattern of other men liking your girlfriend or your potential wife, that is where you can say modesty is probably not in the picture. It's plain and simple. And why is modesty so important in a relationship? Well, let me just say it like this. Modesty is learning how to not only respect the person within themselves or respect themselves as an individual, but to respect the person that they're with. Sometimes there should not be constant roadblocks of other people liking another person. And, it becomes this victimized type approach. Like, well, people should just not look at me, or shouldn't think of it that way. But at the end of the day, it's just like you actually realize that maybe this person's really doing it for attention. I know this is, like I said, it's controversial, but it's a green flag if a woman, here's the thing. If she can, I'm not saying she can't post selfies or she can't do anything about her to value herself. Yes, I mean, that's completely okay. But I think a lot of us who are watching this episode know what I'm talking about. If it's pictures where a guy's probably going to look, some single guy on the internet, or a single guy even at the gym or even at church may look and say, man, may actually struggle. Sometimes you have to ask yourself the question, is this person really trying to be modest? And I've actually seen it before with certain women I've been around, or certain women I've actually dated and talked to. You actually realize, no, there's an intentional approach, or intentional approach behind all this. But moving on to number 3, and this one is where it could get even tougher, but I really want people to hear me out when I talk about this. Is number 3, I like to say that she is submissive, but she is also supportive. What does it mean for a woman to be submissive or supportive? Well, Proverbs chapter 31, verse 23, it says, her husband is respected at the city gate, where he takes his seat among the elders of the land. Being submissive doesn't mean being controlled or abused. Let's get that clear and out of the way. To respect somebody, to stand behind somebody, it's learning how to develop respect with the person with authority in their life. Here's the thing. A woman who is ready to be a wife, she knows that their husband or their potential husband has an authority given to them by God. That authority is to take care of the family, take care of her as a wife. Because let me tell you something, men, it's not her job to take care of you. Your job is to take care of her. And the decisions you make, it's going to be difficult. And let me just say this is something I'm even preparing for as a husband, is learning how to be the leader, taking the authority that Christ is giving me. But let me tell you something, it could be really overwhelming for a lot of men when their wife is not on the same page with them, or when their girlfriend or fiance is not on the same page with them, where it has to be, hey, be the person I think you should be. And they don't stand by who their husband is. Here's the thing, of course, there is a lot of things women definitely should not stand behind. If he's, a cheater, if he's a narcissist, if he's a manipulator, I'm not talking about that. But if you have a husband, or if you have a man in your life, he has a calling of a certain career, he has a calling of a certain purpose, a certain business, something that God is actually calling him to do, and you may not fully stand by that. Maybe that is where you have to ask yourself, is this a relationship worth pursuing? And this is where you have to understand, hey, this is what makes a relationship healthy. As a wife who can stand by her husband when he does the purpose and the activation that God is calling him in his life. It doesn't just mean being a pastor. If God is calling him to be a janitor at a school and bring in a certain amount of money, and maybe work a side business, whatever it may be, a woman with a green flag, she stands by that because she learns how to respect and love her husband. And a lot of times today, I think there's like a clash where it's like, no, I think you should be this way. And a lot of times we even seen recent surveys. I know Courtney Ryan, who does a lot of content on dating. There was like a study she did with women where she interviewed a lot of young women, and she asked what are you looking for in a man? And we're actually hearing, well, if he doesn't make 6 figures a year, I probably wouldn't date him. I probably wouldn't even marry him. And you see what I mean? It's just like with this, it's like we cannot sit back and pick out a man's destiny. A woman you date and get serious with, she's not there to pick out your destiny. She's there to submit to it and stand by it and support it and see where God is going to take it. And I know that's a really big one. And like I said, again, being submissive is not being controlled or abused to respect somebody. It's learning how to develop that strong purpose between both of y'all, whatever God is calling the man to do in his life. So something to really look out for, fellas. But number 4, I like to really talk about this, and this is where it could really be big. But number 4, she is purpose filled. You could say spirit filled, but I want to talk about purpose filled. Proverbs chapter 31 verse 20 says, she opens her arms to the poor and extends her hands to the needy. You know what makes a woman a great quality woman is when she has a vision of what she wants to do in her life, what she knows God is calling her to do in her life, even if she never has a man come into her life. If it's a career, if it's a business, if it's a ministry, whatever it is, this woman knows exactly where God is going to take her. And that's something to really look out for. I'm not saying this woman has to have a job, she has to be this way, she has to make this certain amount of money. But the point is, when you meet her, you will find out this is what she wants to do in her life. That is a big green flag. Sometimes, I mean, it's really tough, but sometimes, even what I talked about in the women episode with dating, 10 types of women you should avoid dating, the first point I give is Miss Codependent. And I think the toughest part about Miss Codependent, or I even talk about Mr. Loser, you know, the similarities between both of them is these are people that don't have visions in their life. And I would say a big green flag to really look out for when you're dating somebody is, do they have vision in their life? Do they have a vision of what they want to do? And are they willing to steward that vision? Are they willing to steward that vision into a purpose? And let me just say it like this. A big thing to look out for is you as a man will enhance her purpose. You will not disrupt it. If you are finding yourself in a place where you're disrupting her purpose, you're disrupting her vision, that is where you could say maybe this is not the right relationship to pursue. But that is something to look out for. It's a high green flag to look out for, is when a woman can actually stand up and understand, hey, this is what I know I'm called to do. Even if it rather if that makes if it's putting money in her bank account or not, the point is she is confident about it. And there's so many examples I can give. Hey, I feel like God's calling me to be a nurse. I feel like God is calling me to be a missionary. I feel like God is calling me, you know, whatever it may be. That is something to look out for. But the last and final green flag to look out for is, I like to refer to this, is she is a daughter of the king, to the king. And in Proverbs chapter 31 verse 31, this is a really amazing scripture. It says, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. What makes a woman special, or what makes women special today, is when they are confident on who they are, but they also are confident on whose they are. A woman who knows who she is and does not depend on her identity on the opinion of a man, and definitely not the opinion of you. That is a woman to really look out for. Yeah, oh, well, is she a Christian? Well, the question is like, if she is a Christian, does she have a stronger relationship with Christ than that she will ever have with the relationship with you? If she is a Christian, does she have that same strong relationship with Christ? Does she love Christ more than she will ever love you? That if things between you and her didn't work out, she continues to move on with her life and patiently wait for her husband, or patiently wait for the right man to come in her life if you and her don't work out. That's the question, or the green flag you should really be looking out for at the end of the day. You know, and that's what I really want to stress to young men today, is this is stuff that's very important in relationships. Why is it important for her to be intentional? Well, you have to understand, are you going to be there trying to, pursue her and allow it to grow? Or are you just wasting your time with her at the end of the day, trying to make her interested when really at the end of the day, she's probably not interested? Why is it important that she is modest? Well, it is important for her to be modest so there could be respect between you and her in the relationship, not have an outside distraction, an outside roadblock come in and disrupt that relationship. Why is it important for her to be submissive or supportive? So not only both of y'all can be on the same page, but both of y'all could learn to love each other no matter what comes into the picture, even if it's not what they envisioned or what you envisioned about the relationship or about that individual. Why is it important for her to be purpose-filled? Because if she has a vision in her life, you know that she will have a vision in the relationship with you and her relationship with God. And why is it important for her to be a daughter of the king? So She knows who she is as a child of God. When you know you are a child of God, nothing gets in the way. As Jesus even told the woman at the well, you've had 5 husbands. The man you're with right now, you're not even married to him. And when he asked that woman for a drink, he says, he who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but he who drinks of the water I offer will never thirst again. In so many words, it's like, I think in dating today, we are so thirsty for the approval of the opposite, or for the opposite gender that we are attracted to. We're so thirsty for affection, attention, love, but we don't realize that Christ is standing there offering his love, because Christ at the end of the day is love. And he's there allowing us to be filled by him. So when we learn how to be filled by him and loved by him, we will learn how to show love to others. And if she is a daughter of the king, why is it important for you as a Christian, single Christian man to date an actual real Christian woman? Is because when she learns how to accept the love of Christ in her life, she will learn how to love you, and vice versa. And these are the traits you should really be praying for. I know some of them might have been controversial, not to attack anyone, but this is big. Do you believe these are green flags to look out for in a Christian woman? Let me know in the comments. But with all that being said, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. With all that being said, guys, God bless.